Hello, I'm Chuck Wolf, Chief Executive for Charles J. Wolf Associates, LLC. As a motivational speaker and a leadership consultant and executive coach and trainer, I often work with very successful people in their companies. Since many can't afford a professional, I volunteer to host a radio talk show called The Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel, on a nonprofit community radio station in Bridgeport, Connecticut, WPKN. My reason for doing the show is to share with as many people as possible this wonderful process for helping people manage their own emotions and their relationships with others. My goal is for everyone listening to learn to use the Emotion Roadmap to make life better. As you listen to me, help others, I hope you are also learning. As a Simsbury resident, I'm delighted to be able to make the show available through Simsbury TV. To learn more, go to my website, www.emotionroadmap.com. Thank you for listening and watching. And this is the Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. And this is Chuck Wolf, and I'm delighted to be here. It's Black History Month, and I've been away for a little bit. I've taken some trips to some warm weather climates, and I missed a little bit of our winter time, but I'm back now, and I'm here for you. And if you want to call in, I know we've got Black History Month going on, and I'd love to have people call in and want to make a donation. There are some people here that will take your phone call. If you want to call in for a donation, it's 203-384-9756. If you want to call in and speak to me, it's 203-336-9756. You're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And I hope that you're feeling good. I know that there's some tough weather outside, but hopefully you're someplace warm and cozy and dry, and you're just enjoying the day. I do have listeners that, if you're a regular listener to the show, you know that at this point the show is videotaped and is also being seen by the town where I live in through the local TV access station in Simsbury, Connecticut. And I do want to say to the people in Simsbury that watch later that there's also a donation that you might make if you're enjoying the radio show. We're WPKN.org, and you can make a donation to support us by going to our website. Again, WPKN.org. Or you can call in at 203-384-9756. And I started the day by being in attendance at a meeting by the local Chamber of Commerce in Simsbury at the actual radio station where their production studio is. And I have to say that the Simsbury Community Television Studio does a wonderful job and in numerous ways. It's a real gem for the town of Simsbury. And so those of you that might be interested, you may want to support them as well. I know there's a community grant to help them to take their station to HD. And also they're looking to do some upgrades to the studio itself. So I hope that if you are feeling at all flush and you've got some money and you can reach in your pocket, two wonderful gems, WPKN and Simsbury Community Access TV, would appreciate anything that you can do in the way of volunteering your time if you don't have money extra, or a few of your dollars if you could afford to. It's much appreciated. I hope that you enjoyed this show. If you're new to this show, my show is about helping people deal with emotional challenges. I have found that when smart people get stuck, it's often the case that something emotional is happening, that if they're dealing with a conflict, if they're trying to adapt to changes that are happening in their life, if they're leading changes, if they're leaders involved with organizations that are going through major changes, I find that oftentimes that there's people become confused and uncertain when they're worried about the implications of creating strong emotions, or strong emotions are already in play. And to assist people in the world that I work in professionally, I've created this concept called an emotion roadmap. And the emotion roadmap is what I talk about on this show, with anyone who wants to call in, because I realize that paying for consultant services sometimes is out of some people's reach. And I wanted to make this knowledge that I've accumulated over the years, what I've experienced and learned about, how I've learned to manage my own emotions and to help others to manage their emotions and their relationships with key people in their lives, that I want to share that over this radio station. And PKN has been giving me that possibility for the last 6 years. I'm in my 6th year now. It seems the time's gone by fast. And it's wonderful to be able to help people. And if you call in, if you've got a conflict at work or at home, if you've got a team that you're trying to make the group members feel more like team members, like they're in support of one another, if you're trying to build a culture of trust, if you're trying to develop more respect among people that you work with for yourself and for others, if you have issues at home with your children, with your partners, your spouse, your in-laws, your parents, children, anyone, this show's for you. This show's all about helping you understand how an emotion roadmap, which basically looks at what are you feeling, and if there's anyone that's key in the relationship that you're working with, what is he or she or they feeling? You start with, where are you? What is your current state or situation? What are your current feelings? And where do you want to go in terms of your feelings? The idea of a roadmap is to take you from what you are feeling to what might be ideal to feel and to help you get there. And the reason I love doing this on the radio, or as some of you are watching on video, the reason I love doing it this way is because I reach a very large group of people. When I help you, if I'm able to help you understand how thinking about the emotions that are in play, by changing them, you can make a situation that seems somewhat hopeless, hopeful. If you can walk away from a conversation with me feeling like you went from having no plan and no idea what you might do, feeling very uncertain and very confused, to feeling confident that you have a plan that makes sense to you, that you're able and willing to do, not only have I helped you, but hopefully everyone listening is learning at the same time. That's the idea. There's a lot of anger and dissatisfaction. I imagine some of you are watching the race for the election for president now, and the polling coming out of the Nevada caucuses. I mean, there was like 89% of the people that were polled in exit interviews or interviews as they were going into the polling station. 89% were either dissatisfied or angry about the state of the country. That's almost everybody. Now, when you think about that and you think about the consequence of what's going on, you can see that a lot of people are upset with the system. And maybe there are things happening in your world that you're upset about that are more local than a general election. But I want to help you with whatever's going on that is causing you perhaps to be angry and dissatisfied. Donald Trump's Make America Great Again. I actually was thinking about, I want to make leadership great again. I want to help people understand that when they lead others, if you can respect others, if you have others' backs, if you're supportive of the people that work for you, anything in your organization is possible. But when you're disrespectful and when you focus only on the people on the top and making as much money as you can without thinking about the consequences of how the people at the bottom of your organization are feeling or what they're being paid, if you lose sight of the fact that most of our companies, we don't operate successfully unless we have people working very hard to help us to be successful. You know, almost every annual report I've ever read starts off with, hey, people are our greatest and most important assets. And yet, when you look at how people are treated in a lot of organizations, you don't really see that being in play. You don't really see people feeling like they're your most important assets typically. Do you know that Gallup polls consistently find that 80% of the workforce is not actively engaged in supporting their companies? 80%. Again, that's almost everybody. And for those companies that are even hitting their financial targets, Do you really think you couldn't be doing better if you paid more attention to the people who work for you? I'm always intrigued by the fact that companies pay a lot of money to do what they call cultural audits or surveys of morale, and they often do them on an annual or biannual basis. And having worked in this field now of leadership consulting and learning about emotional intelligence, I'm struck by the fact that wouldn't you think you'd want every supervisor at every level of every organization to know how their people are feeling every day? Wouldn't you want to pick up the fact that somebody isn't right on a given day? And if you're paying attention and you're caring about the people, you don't have to be their therapist. But if people know you care about them, that you're supportive, that you will have their backs should something happen, you get great performance. You get inspired performance. And my show's a lot about work, but it's also about home, because sometimes we have our most difficult, challenging, emotional times at home with our children, with our spouse sometimes, with our parents, and with our in-laws, and sometimes with relatives and friends as well, or in the community with neighbors or people in our churches, synagogues, mosques, whatever. So if you've got something going on that you'd like to talk to me about, you can call me. And I'll give you my number in 1 second, because I'd love to hear from you. Because when you call and you talk to me, then it opens the gateway for others to feel comfortable. It isn't easy to picking up the phone. But if you feel like you've got something going on and you don't know what to do about it, it's a conflict that's meaningful and important to you. I mean, sure, we have conflicts every day, and some of them matter a little bit, or they're not even that consequential. But sometimes we've got things that are really important in our lives. And WPKN, via my radio show here, the Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel, gives you that chance to call up and talk to us, or talk to me, about what I've learned about emotional intelligence, about how to use an emotion roadmap to take you from what you are feeling to what you want to feel, what would be more ideal to feel, and help you to get there, and put a plan together to help you to get there. This is a great chance to do that. But before I do that, again, I want to remind you to think about what we contribute here on WPKN to the community. This is a wonderful radio station. I don't know if you just tuned in for my show or if you've been listening to I Messiah before me. What a great show he has. I always liked reggae music, but since I've been to this station and I'm listening regularly to I Messiah, I'm really learning to appreciate the diversity of reggae and how powerful it is and how spiritual it can be. So I hope you enjoyed that. And then I believe Richard Epstein is coming in later for something classical. Almost every show has people who are incredibly knowledgeable about the music they play, many of whom have either been singers or musicians themselves or continue to be and participate in different events. And I just think it's just a great place and a unique station that's so incredibly important to the community. So I hope you can help us to continue to be sustainable. You can contribute by going to our website at wpkn.org and becoming a sustaining member, just a few dollars a month or a lot of dollars a month on a regular basis with a credit card. You can make a one-time contribution, or you can call in to 203-384-9756. Now, I've had some people call and thank me, and feel tremendous about the help that I've been able to give them, and that feels great to me personally. But I'm only on for an hour, so I don't often get that many callers who call in and make a donation. Make me feel great, folks. If you're a regular listener and you can afford to make any kind of contribution, you can call in to 203-384-9756. And there's some musical promotions and some tickets, but I'm not going to get into that because I want my show to be my show. And I want to give you the number that you can call, because the number that you can call is the number to reach me and to talk to me directly. And when you're talking to me, you'll be on the air, and everybody else that's listening is going to be able to benefit from anything that I might be able to do to help you. So if you've got something that you think's important, please don't wait till the end of the show when I'm out of time. I'm on till 12:55, and then I'm out of here. I'll be back next week, but still, if you want some help today, the number to call is 203-336-9756. Now, in this particular studio, it's a little different than where we normally do this. the phones are sort of off to the side, so I may not pick up right away. So don't don't hang up. And I'll try and make sure that I keep looking back to make sure that if the phone's ringing, I got you covered. Okay. So that's the one number that you want to call if you want to talk to me directly. I'll give it to you again a couple times. 203-336-9756. And I'll give it to you one more time. And if you call right away, I'm going to be looking right over there, and we'll be on the air, and we'll get started. 203-336-9756. Hi, this is Chuck Wolf. You're on the air. Who's calling?
Yes, good day, Chuck. Mark Hananen. How are you today?
Good, Mark. How are you doing?
Well, I am under great stress because I've been contending with the courts for many, many years, and I've sort of becoming like an enemy of the court. They really don't seem to like me there. They're trying to arrest me. I'm going to court on Monday for the 5th time for a violation of probation allegation. I never violated probation, and I don't belong on probation because I'm on probation for trespassing on my own property. I've been on probation for about 5 years for trespassing on my own property. I never committed a crime.
Hey, Mark. I appreciate. Mark, let me just say, we've talked a number of times. I know your story to a degree, and you know the show as well. So, is there something I can do in terms of helping you with how you're feeling? I can't really do anything about the legal issues. We've talked about that before.
I know. But I'm just need us. I sort of have a plan. I have a public defender, and I'm going to tell him how to defend myself because he doesn't have the time to look into my case or issues. But that's sort of my plan, is to give my public defender my my side of the story and hope he gets that through to the judge.
Mark, I can tell you that you've been a loyal listener, and I really appreciate your calling, and I wish you much success with anything that you're doing legally. I know you're a supporter of the station as well, and I really appreciate that also. Is there something I can do around feelings that might be helpful to you?
Around feelings? I'm just looking for I'm just looking to stay positive. It's really, really stressful when you have judges and prosecutors trying to throw you in prison when you're not a criminal. And that is what I'm dealing with. And to stay on top of this and stay positive through it all, it takes all the faith I got and any possible support I can possibly get. And that's, I suppose, what I'm doing is reaching out for a little support.
Well, Mark, I can say this to you. I mean, you and I chatted a long time ago when you first called, and I've been on the air 6 years, and you might have called me in my 2nd year, I think, or something. So we've kind of known each other a little bit. And the one thing I'd say is, excuse me, I'm sorry. You've never given up, and that's, I guess, to your credit. I mean, I know you and I chatted a long time ago, which said that maybe at some point you put a timeline on it, and if it doesn't work out the way you want, you move on with your life, and you've chosen to continue to battle. And so, if you want some support from me, because you I don't think you're going to change that behavior, but I would say to you is I don't think I've ever met anyone as dedicated as you are to trying to get justice. And that's
thank you.
And that's
what I needed.
That's something that maybe you can carry with you for the rest of the day.
I know. I appreciate that tremendously. Because that does keep me going. It's recognition like that.
Well, all right, Mark. I appreciate.
I will let you continue with your show, Chuck, and I appreciate your show tremendously, and I appreciate you and all your efforts and all of WPKN efforts. And I wish I was in a financial situation where I could make a contribution. I'm still trying to catch up on my last pledge. So.
Okay. Well, listen, I wish you the best, Mark, and we know you're a loyal listener to the show and to the station, and I appreciate that as well.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your time and all your work, Chuck.
Thanks so much.
Wish you a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, folks. Thank you, Mark, for making the phone call for the first one. Anybody else? It's 203-336-9756. 9756, 203 336 9756. And I'll check now. Hi, this is Chuck Wolf. You're on the air. Who am I talking to?
Hi, this is Jennifer Martin.
Can you turn your radio down?
Yes, I just did. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm sorry. Was your name Jennifer?
Jennifer Martin, yes.
Oh, well, okay. Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for calling.
I'm actually calling because I'm heading into a very difficult custody battle with my ex-husband. He has been very psychologically abusive for the past 10 years that I've known him and that I was married to him. He had manipulated my 6-year-old son away from me during the week in the promise of putting him in a private school, which he never did, because my son is having some behavioral issues. Come to find out, he's actually on the autistic spectrum. So I'm trying to fight to get my son back into my custody and my care during the week. So it's been very emotionally draining so far.
So you're feeling concerned, anxious, somewhat upset. Does that all sound like how you're feeling?
Yes, correct. Yes, very kind of nervous about the outcome of the situation.
Sure.
Yeah.
So are you, and you would want to feel, I imagine, you want to feel hopeful, which is probably a little bit hopeful, and you'd also want to feel a lot more confident, I imagine.
Yes. Right now, dealing with someone who is psychologically abusive, he has the ability to, bring me down and make me feel like I am kind of a worthless human being, which I know that I'm not. So it's kind of hard dealing with him as well.
So let me just ask you, Jennifer, have you gotten any professional help for these feelings? Because often people do in your situation.
I am. I'm actually in the process of trying to talk to a therapist. I just have to go through the insurance aspect of it first. But yes, I am in the process.
So you want to feel that your best chance to get custody back is not to have your husband be able to belittle you, put you down, make you feel uncertain and insecure, and even more anxious than you're feeling already, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Also, yes, correct.
Okay, so here's, have you looked into the whole arena of self-esteem building, building self-confidence, self-help books? I mean, have you done any kind of work like that on your own?
I do, actually. I do a lot of meditation and yoga. I also listen to a lot of documents and things, along that perspective. So yes, I have done some of that.
So let me tell you how this emotion roadmap works then, because that's part of what I want to help you and anybody else that's listening, really, because you're certainly not alone. And as being someone who's been abused psychologically, unfortunately, there's a lot of that stuff that happens. And then one of the things that you want to think about is this idea that if you're feeling uncertain and insecure about being around your husband because of what he's been able to do in the past, you want to feel confident and some strength in yourself, in your ability to be able to resist what he creates for you, right?
Yes, correct.
So this, not that it's a trick, but it's really important to understand that the way that someone makes us feel, it seems a little bit out of our control, because certainly you'd say, well, why haven't I done something about that a long time ago? And yet what happens to us is that when someone finds the triggers that cause us to feel low self-esteem, to feel insecure, to feel uncertain, when someone has certain triggers or buttons that they press, is a familiar metaphor, it's almost on automatic that we go back to that feeling, those feelings that are so demeaning and disempowering. And what we want to be able to do instead is understand that it isn't what they say, it isn't what they do that's causing this. And this is so important, Jennifer. It's what you want to understand. It isn't anything really to do with them. It's everything to do with you. It's everything to do with how you allow yourself to feel. No one makes you feel a certain way without you being complicit in some manner. If you say to yourself, I refuse to let this SOB ever do this to me again, and you get mad at yourself, and you absolutely feel powerful enough to say, I know what he's going to say. I've been there so many times before, only this time the outcome's going to be different because I won't allow it. It has nothing to do with whether he's in control of himself or not. He's going to do the same things he's always done. I can count on that. But I'm prepared mentally, emotionally to handle it and to dismiss it. I won't let that SOB do this to me ever again. I mean, I know that sounds simple and it's really not that easy to do, but the most important part of what I just said to you is that this is inside your control. This has nothing to do with anyone else.
I agree, yes, and I understand. I had read the book, The Four Agreements. I don't know if you're familiar with that book.
I don't think so, actually. I mean, it sounds a little bit familiar, but I certainly don't know anything. I can't remember anything about it, so go ahead.
It touches on that subject. It touches on the fact that, you are in control of your own emotions and you cannot let other people break you down, basically, is the concept.
Yes, but, as much as it's easy for me or to say that or the book author to write that, we both know it's really hard, right?
Yes, correct, yeah.
So you got to sit in front of, just if are you interested in something, tactical that you can try ahead of time?
Sure, yes.
So you want to sit in front of a mirror and just say the kind of things that he would say to you. And just check your own reactions to it until it almost becomes a little silly for you and you can laugh about it to the point where it can't harm you anymore because you know what's coming. So
Right.
Just to say to yourself, I'm not going to let it hurt me anymore, it doesn't work by itself. But if you practice, and maybe if you've got somebody in your life that's a good friend or some other guy that you're seeing or something, if you get them to say those things to you and you practice how you react to them, but you can do it by yourself, just in the mirror, because you know what's coming. It's not like he's going to surprise you with stuff.
Right.
But you've got to be able to look at yourself and see how you're reacting to this stuff and change the way you react. And when you practice it, you'll go into that with, so much of what we do to reduce anxiety has everything to do with how we prepare.
Right.
Just like the case you have going in for custody. To the extent that you feel confident in that case, you want to ask yourself, if whoever's going to make that decision for you, if it's a judge or somebody else that's going to be making that call, what are they likely to care about, and how do you want them to feel? It's also an important part of what you're dealing with. Isn't just your husband, but also whoever it is that's making these decisions. How do you want the person or people to feel that are going to be making a decision? You want them to see you as somebody quite competent, somebody quite confident, somebody not out of control, somebody who's not angry, but just presents the facts as they exist. The situation as you presented it to me, which was, you were fairly calm when you said what you said, but you want to show up as someone that seems like they can handle tough stuff. If you show up highly emotional, out of control, get easily upset, you don't win.
Right.
So much of this is about you and what you actually, and I know this isn't easy, and I don't mean to make it sound easy, but what is really a beautiful part of what I'm saying to you is that these are things you control. This is not about your husband. It's not about the courts. It is about what you control. And that's a good thing.
Yes, I agree with you. And thank you so much for actually bringing that to my attention and making me aware of it, because it's going to help me through this process.
Well, that's great. So Jennifer, I wish you much success with this. If what I've said to you is helpful, someday give me a call back. And if it helps a little bit but not quite enough, call back anyway.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Nice talking to you. You have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Jennifer, for calling. So hopefully you're getting the idea about how the show works then, right? It's simply you calling in with something going on in your life and my trying to make some sense out of it for you and see if there's some way that emotionally, by focusing on what you're feeling and helping you to feel differently, life is going to be better for you. So again, the number is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. It's a little hard to look back. Okay, so I have some things I did want to talk to you about today, and they have to do a little bit with actually a few different topics. So I'm going to talk for a few minutes now. I want to talk a little bit about something to do with the budget in Connecticut. I did a few shows after Sandy Hook, after the horrific event, when Adam Lanza, went kind of crazy and shot all those people in the school and so forth. And I did some shows in combination with the Center for Emotional Intelligence at Yale University. Talked with Mark Brackett about it, and then just talked on my own a little bit about the fact that I think there's a lot more we could be doing with helping with mental health and emotional health for people that would help prevent, maybe not this fellow, Adam Lanza, who was very disturbed, obviously, maybe he still might have killed himself and his mother, but I think there are things we could do clearly that would prevent someone from even thinking about going to the schools to do the shooting. And I've talked a little bit about that. But one of the things that I was really quite concerned about in the budget, in the recent budget, is I know after we had that horrific event that there was a tremendous outpouring of sentiment to have stronger gun control laws. And I support, laws that I support the right to carry arms, but I also support the idea of having background checks and having cooling off periods. And there are things that just make so much common sense. I don't know why anybody wouldn't support them. But I don't think it's guns that kill people as much as it is mental health problems. I mean, the person in Kalamazoo that didn't seem to have a track record of things, but was so mentally unbalanced, it just killed a whole bunch of people the other day. People that get brainwashed and in the name of religion go around and killing people that sometimes they even know that have been supportive of them. I mean, there's so many things that, to me, as a professional in the field of, both leadership and in mental health and emotional well-being, I just don't understand how the state of Connecticut could pass a budget where we cut back significantly on our support for mental health. I don't want to get into an argument with people about where else we should have cut. I just know that's wrong. And I hope that perhaps that those of you who agree with me will talk to your state legislators and to the governor about, finding some way to be supportive of helping people deal with mental health illness. I'm also a huge proponent. The Center for Emotional Intelligence at Yale University has done some tremendous work, is doing tremendous work in teaching children in schools. And they don't just teach children. This is the beauty of what they do. They teach administrators. They teach teachers. They involve the children with their parents and their families in ways to think about how do you manage the emotions of depression? How do you manage the emotions of anger? How do you manage the emotions of embarrassment, of humiliation, of disrespect? I mean, we don't handle these things well. And we don't generally learn much about them except through experience. There isn't much in the way of curriculum. And the beauty of what's going on at Yale is they don't just have good ideas. I mean, I know a lot of school systems currently are doing things with character building and character education, and all that's good. But what Yale is doing is they actually have research to support what they're doing. They have great innovative ideas about how to blend a curriculum with what's going on in schools to make things in the curriculum come more alive. I'll tell you in a second. I just want to keep checking the phones in case it rings. Again, I'll give you my number here, 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. So, no calls at the moment. So I will tell you, I'll continue. I think that we should try to find ways not only to support people who are already mentally ill, but I think we should also find ways to keep people mentally healthy. And I think we should find ways to support more of the kind of work being done by the Center for Emotional Intelligence at Yale. I've had Mark Brackett in, and I hope to have him in soon again, probably in April, maybe, or May, with a superintendent from the schools in Bridgeport. We are located in Bridgeport. We support the counties around our listening area and Bridgeport, and we're also on the web at wpkn.org, but we are housed in Bridgeport. And Bridgeport school system is undergoing an intervention and a planned implementation with the Center for Emotional Intelligence at Yale, and I'm really looking forward to having the superintendent. I hope she can join me, along with Mark Brackett, to talk about what they're doing. But where did the funds come from? I know that we're struggling with funds. So I had an idea about fundraising, too, for the state. And it's a controversial idea, perhaps, but I want to talk about it anyway. It has to do with marijuana, recreational marijuana. You know, I know that we're in a pretty good place in Connecticut with medicinal marijuana. We've got a lot of controls in place. We've got a lot of places growing marijuana. And it might not be that hard if we made the decision to support recreational use. Now, I know there are people that immediately think that, well, that's never going to fly in Connecticut because it's just wrong. We don't want to encourage our young people, especially, to engage in pot smoking, because why add to the list of things that can hurt them? And so I recognize that, and I don't say this lightly, but I will say a couple things about marijuana. For whatever reason, marijuana has a stigma against it that is confusing to me. If you listen to the politicians that are against it, you'll hear them say, we don't have enough research. I mean, that's one of the arguments, right? We don't have enough research to support that, you know, the use of marijuana is not harmful in numerous ways. And yet there's a lot of research that says it actually is not as harmful, perhaps, as some other vices, such as alcohol and so forth. But more importantly, I want to say something that is going to sound like it's out of left field, but it isn't. Medical marijuana is used with Parkinson's. And so people in my family have essential tremor, which, if you don't know the difference, they are different diseases, but they have similar symptoms. And symptoms similar are about shaking. And I was at a conference with a doctor from Yale University, again Yale, that was supportive of a group that is dedicated to helping address what's going on with essential tremor. And they group of people that have it meet regularly, and they have guest speakers, and they have a regular doctor assigned to them. And one of the people in the audience, when I attended one of the sessions, asked a doctor, he said, you know, why is marijuana not available for people with essential tremor, since it seems to have a positive impact on people with Parkinson's? And so he said something that I didn't really know about, and my guess is you don't either. Marijuana is a Class 1 drug. Now, Class 1 drugs are the most dangerous drugs. And if you receive funding from the federal government, you cannot do research on Class 1 drugs. Yale University cannot do research on Class 1 drugs. And so for all those people that say marijuana, there's not enough research to support its benefits or to legalize it for recreational use, does anybody get that they can't do more research because the funding isn't available to all those institutions that receive federal funding for research? So I'm hoping that you'll agree with me and that you're right. I've written to Senator Blumenthal and Senator Murphy. I haven't gotten any confirmation. They've talked with me, but I've gotten any confirmation that they're going to work to change that law and to make it a Class 2 drug. And Elizabeth Esty as well, who's a congresswoman that is my representative. I hope that you'll write to yours too, because this is just wrong. And as far as it being for recreational use, I believe the state of Vermont is just going to pass it in the legislature this year. There was an article in the Boston Globe yesterday about the experience in Colorado where it's been out there for a while. And sure, there are some headaches. Most of the headaches, it seems to me, are there's two major ones. One is that because the federal government has this law against it, that banks are not supporting depositing funds from businesses that are selling marijuana. That's one problem, but it looks like that's being solved. It looks like someone's found a way to provide banking. The second one is about edibles, because edibles, it seems like people don't know how much they're eating and how much how much they can ingest before they get really high, and they get, over high because of the edibles. So I'm not advocating edibles, but I do know that if somebody wants marijuana, they can get it. There's ways to get it. So if people want it, they're already getting it. Number two is the state of Colorado mostly has benefited. I mean, there's more positives than there are negatives. And so I'm thinking, as we know, there are 5 states that have legalized it. It's coming. It's going to be available probably before us, unless something changes, in Massachusetts, which is just across the border from where I live in Simsbury, in Vermont, which isn't very far either, probably New York. And all those other states are going to be making the revenues associated with it. And anybody in our state that wants to buy it legally can go across the border once these states have gone and legalized it for recreational use. Now, I realize it's a big, big step to take, but I want to advocate for it because I think if we could do something where we could say any revenues from anything to do with selling marijuana, actually medicinally or recreationally, any sales taxes that go into our coffers are directly devoted to both reactive mental health treatment, to go to social services and other parts of our government that support getting people help for those who do struggle, and also go into it doesn't have to be the Center for Emotional Intelligence at Yale, but that's the best one I know about, and I'm pretty familiar with the field, that is doing things to keep people emotionally healthy. And you know what? It's interesting. If we keep people emotionally healthy, they don't want to take drugs. So my thought is, what if we support the idea, number one, let's change the status of marijuana from class 1, which is just silly at this point, and make it class 2 and allow people to do more research on it at universities that receive federal funding, which is a lot of the best universities, so we can do more research. And I know that the last argument, and then I'll stop talking about this, the last argument I want to address is the fact that actually 2 points. The next to last argument I want to address is that a lot of people say that marijuana is a gateway drug to other problems, and we know that there's huge problems with addiction these days, with heroin and all kinds of other things. But without getting into a lot of statistical psychology, statistics are interesting in that you can show a high correlation between those people that have used marijuana and those that have used these other drugs, these hard drugs. But correlation doesn't mean causation. It doesn't mean it causes it. It just means that people that are willing to try something that's against the law, like marijuana, probably are willing to try other drugs. But that's probably true if you looked and you said, well, what if, you could probably make the case that almost all those people drank milk when they were young. And there's a correlation to people who drink milk and smoke marijuana and people who use hard drugs. I mean, correlations are just, it just so happens that people are all, there's a high number of people who may have smoked marijuana that are those people that also use hard drugs. But let me tell you something else that people don't often talk about. If you're a young person or even a young adult or older adult and you want to get high and you want to smoke marijuana and that's your drug of choice, you can't get that recreationally in the Northeast right now, except buying it illegally. So what if you go to the person that you normally get your drugs from, and frankly, folks, again, if you want to get these drugs, you can find a way to do it. If you go to someone that normally has marijuana to sell, but they don't have any, but they have this other drug they want to encourage you to use because they know you want to get high and you don't really want to use that other drug, but you had your heart set on it, and so you try something different. I think that's more of a problem than anything else in terms of how people get hooked on other things. If we take it away from the criminals, if we take it out of the black market, if we put it in our pharmacies, the same place that we might sell, medicinal marijuana, or we put it in our liquor stores, wherever we might put it, it is regulated. And we take the tax dollars that we would get from it, because, folks, at some point it's going to be recreational use everywhere. I mean, almost everybody thinks that's going to happen. The percentage of people that are in favor of legalizing marijuana across this country is going up every year. And the consequences are not devastating as people who were dead set against it might have thought. Look at all the written material about what's going on in Colorado, which is probably the best example. And I just say to you, if you think I'm right about that, I don't want to just put it in the coffer. I'd like whatever use we might get from those tax dollars to be devoted to mental health. We're forced right now to cut back on what we contribute to the social services areas of our government, and that to me is just wrong. In light of the horrific event at Sandy Hook, in light of everything we know about what's coming, it seems to me, let's really be Connecticut Yankees. Let's be smart about the money. Let's be smart about the revenues. We know this is coming. Let's regulate it. Let's control it. Let's be out in front of it and benefit from it and tie those dollars to better mental health for people and even be proactive by supporting programs like those emanating from the Center for Emotional Intelligence at Yale University. Let's use those dollars constructively to create the most mentally and emotionally healthy state in the world. Let's do that. Hope you can support that with me. All right, that's my soapbox. One other thing, and I said that was the next last argument. The last argument has to do with, it is Black History Month, right? Now, where is the problem of criminalizing marijuana showing up? Most, it's in our inner cities. If somebody in a wealthy area gets busted, chances are they have the resources to get that record removed. Not so in our inner cities. Not so where a lot of people live who are part of our minorities communities. We have people talking about that a lot. Let's stop putting people in jail about this. Bernie Sanders wants to legalize marijuana all over the world. I mean, all over the country if he was to be elected. Most people are kind of letting the states do what they want to do. But it's coming, folks. And so another argument for this is, let's stop putting our young people in jail for a law that really makes no sense anymore. And even in our state now, it's really just a misdemeanor for the most part, unless you're selling the drugs. And so it's more of a nuisance than anything else. So I hope you join with me and support, both mental health and as a place that we should never go to cut our budgets, and two, a way of trying to use something that's coming anyway, recreational and medicinal use of marijuana, whatever tax dollars that those sales generate, let's use it proactively to put those dollars into mental health, and let's build the strongest possible emotionally healthy community of Connecticut people as we can. And by the way, I know that people listen to this show on WPKN.org, wherever you are. I suggest you all consider these arguments. Thank you. Okay, so I've got about 5 minutes left, folks. 4 minutes, it looks like. I got time for one more caller. The number is 203-336-9756. You want to react to what I just said? Give me a call. You want to talk to me about conflict that you've got going on? I got a little bit of time for you. 203-336-9756. So, no reactions. Well, I hope you're busy out there contacting your senators, your legislators, your congressman, the governor, about some of these recommendations. And thank you for allowing me to talk about that. You could have turned the station, you could have turned away, but I just think that I don't know. I just want to be practical about things. I try not to get too ideologically consumed. I just try to be, understanding of people's positions, why people think the way they do, how they feel the way they do. There's so much polarization right now in our country, in the world, and I think that with more openness. Oh, I've got a call. Hi, this is Chuck Wolf. You're on the air. Who's calling?
I'm calling from North Haven. This is Jim.
Hi, Jim. How you doing?
Connecticut. How you doing?
Good, Jim. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I was listening to your comment about marijuana, and I was a youngster. I'm 72 now, and I tried it for a year or so during the hippie era, and just out of curiosity, and I realized it was just putting me into another realm. It was drunking me out, really.
Uh-huh.
And I don't see the benefit. Society has degenerated so much. Like we have alcohol problems, we have the higher drug, powerful drug problem, and now they want to legalize marijuana. And from what I talked to my friends my age, they said, Bill, that there's no intention other than getting yourself screwed up in your head. And we stoop so low that we're desperately looking for tax revenue that these people, same people, would pimp their own mothers or grandmothers to raise. I just don't see where it's benefiting society. I really don't.
Well, I appreciate your point of view, Jim. It's different than mine. I've known a lot of people that have smoked pot without any
Oh, yeah, I knew a lot of people, too. I mean, but the thing was, when you smoked it, you got screwed up. Simple as that. When you drink too much alcohol, you get screwed up.
I absolutely agree with you. And I just, as I said, I try to be practical, not ideological about it.
Yeah, well, I know. I respect your opinion, too. Everybody has pros and cons.
Right. I just think, Jim, it's coming. Whether you like it or other people like it or not, it's coming.
Oh, yeah, well,
and so the question is, if it's coming, and we recognize that it's coming, and again, I'm trying to turn it into something positive by using the tax dollars to promote mental health and emotional and social well-being, and so I just think it's going to happen, Jim, whether you wanted it or not. That's the point I'm making. And
it's like building a 1,000-mile fence in Mexico. I'm 72 years old. I tell you, I'm in fairly decent shape. If they built that thing 20 feet high and 10 feet deep, I would dig under it and climb over it, believe me. And these people, they have so much money that they lose touch of reality. Money. They were saying estimates, I heard, $3 billion to build a fence. Now, tell me, they forget, because they have so much money, that they lose sight of the natural resources that's being wasted. All that steel and everything else, they just think everything just comes off a tree. It's the most ridiculous. The way they should stop that is...
Hey, Jim, I got to stop you because my show's out of time. But
okay. Nice talking to you, though.
I do appreciate your calling, and I really appreciate your listening. Thanks a lot for listening to WPKN. Thanks, Jim. Bye-bye. Well, I know there's a lot of different opinions about all this stuff out there, folks, but I do want to say it. As I said, it's try to be practical about this, and I do think it's going to happen anyway, so why not get in front of it? Anyway, thanks for listening, folks. I'll be back on the air. The number to call for if you want to make a donation, 203-384-9756. You can look us up at WPKN.org. And those of you in Simsbury Community Television Access TV, look to make a donation to Simsbury Community Television. It's another gem. PKN and Simsbury Community Television are both gems, and I'm very, very appreciative to be part of both of them. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You've been listening to Chuck Wolf, the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel, and I'll be back next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.